Hey everyone, it's Brett Porney here with Xcut. So today I want to try and go over some taper per foot and angles and how they correlate to the right reamer you're looking at and why you might be getting something slightly different from what industry describes these reamers as and how that correlates to selecting the correct tool for your application. So I want to first explain what taper per foot means. So we'll look here at one of our models that I've modeled here to help illustrate what this means. So taper per foot would be the change in diameter of your small end to your large end over 12 inches. So we can see here our small end we have modeled at 1 inch in diameter. Our large end is at 2.5 inches diameter. And the length from our center line to each point is 12 inches. This 12.02341 here, we'll go over a little bit later and why you see that number on some CAD files here and why it might not matter too much for what your application and what you're doing is. So again, just to illustrate, that taper per foot means the difference from your small end to your large end over 12 inches. So let's take a look here. We'll go to our 1.5 inch taper per foot example. So our 1.5 inch taper per foot, we advertise as an 1.5 inch taper per foot, which correctly it is. But you might see that we have 7.15 degree included angle. That 7.15 degree included angle is actually 7.153 degrees, and it's the measure of both angles. Some of us might measure the half angle. That half angle is your center line angle to this angle here. All it is half of that included angle of 7.15. You can see here it's 3.5765. Again, depending on metrology equipment that you're measuring with, you might measure that half angle, and you might be looking for that 3.5, 3.57 degree reamer going, I don't see any that exist. Why? Well, again, they sell in included angles, and we advertise the 7.15. Industry will call that a 7 degree reamer. All it is a rounding. So we try to advertise our reamers as close as we can to that actual angle. That way, for those of you that might measure it correctly, can find it. So how do we correlate all these stud measurements and angles to our correct reamer? Let's look at an example from one of our customers that we'd received. So I'll turn this example off for now. And we will look at a stud here that we had received and how it correlates to, as you can see, our 1.5 inch taper per foot reamer there. So our customer reached out. They had measured their small end taper at 0.675, the large end taper at 0.776, and the distance they provided us was 0.808. You can see here it might be modeled a little bit different. And now let's go back. You had seen on that previous screen of that taper example that was over 12 inches. You see a number there that was a little bit bigger than 12 inches. So what was that number? That number was your slant distance. So that slant length here, on this example, you can see is 0.80988. Now the actual distance between these two, parallel to the center line, is 0.8083. The correct way to measure that distance is the 0.8083 version. So the distance between these 2 points should be measured parallel to that center line. Some of you don't have the metrology equipment to do it, and it's completely okay. You can see that distance is only 1/1000th of an inch. So over the tapers you're dealing with, that 1/1000th of an inch isn't going to change anything. So this example, it's only 0.8 of an inch length. That thousandths is not altering any distance, any angles, anything that you can worry. So when you go to measure your ends, don't be scared to measure that slant angle. Don't think I got to get perfect because 1/1000th isn't probably going to be able to be measurable. You're probably going to put 2 streaks on that tapered stud. You're going to measure that slant length, and you're going to correlate that between your small end and large end, which is, it's fine. It's not the correct way, but for this application, it's the way it's going to work for you. So now we were able to get our small end diameter, our large end diameter, and our length of taper. So now we're going to go over on our website to our resources. You can find us at xcutusa.com. And on there, we have a taper reamer calculator. This is going to be the way how you're going to correlate those dimensions to the correct reamer. So let's walk through this taper reamer calculator and how you might utilize it. So the first thing, does this application have a keyway or oblong hole? See here, most applications don't have this. This is for severely worn tapers, or if you're using these reamers outside of something that might have a keyway. So 99% of the time, you're going to say no. All this part does is correlate whether you're going to be getting a straight flute or spiral flute reamer. Most of the time, our customers just need a straight flute. Cost efficient, it's the correct reamer for the application. So if you think you might want a spiral flute, you can start to read through some of the resources there of why you probably don't want it. But if at the end of the day you're like, I want a spiral flute reamer, I don't care what you say, that's fine. You can definitely go with it. And like I said, there is some applications that need it. So like I said, severely worn holes, something that's oblong or has ridges, there's definitely use for it. But for the majority of the time, all you're going to need is a straight flute reamer. Let's pretend we don't know the taper foot. Customer didn't know the taper foot at this point. So that small end diameter again was 0.675. That large end diameter they provided was 0.776. And that taper length they gave us was 0.808. So let's hit calculate and recommend reamer. So our calculator has some logic built into it. So you can be off a little bit in your small end or your large end, and it's going to still round that 1.5 tape per foot. When you go to measure your studs, you're not going to be perfect. You still want to utilize the caliper or micrometer or the best metrology equipment you have, because 30 thousandths can make a huge difference. So try and get into that, dial it into that 1 thousandths range, 10 thousandths, get it close as you can. And our tape calculator will do some logic to round it. If you're off, it'll let you know. But so for this application, it recommends the 1.5 tape per foot, as you've seen in our example there. And it'll recommend our 1776 or 5952. They're dimensionally the same. If you go to either one of those reamers, you can see a video that correlates to what's different about them, why you might choose one or the other. So that's how you're going to utilize our calculator here to get the correct taper per foot and which reamer you might need. So let's go back to some of our models here, and I want to go over some of our other tapers and how it correlates to angles, and that way you get the hang of it, you know what angles are what, and we can just talk about it more. So let's go to our 2-inch taper per foot example here. So again, the 2-inch taper per foot means that from the small end to the large end over 12 inches, there's 2 inches of difference in those diameters. So we can see here that 2-inch taper per foot will correlate to 9.527 degrees included angle. Again, that half angle is just half of that angle. It's measured at the center line. You can see over here it's 4.7635 degrees. Again, that's that half angle. Industry will use this included angle at the 9.527 degrees here. Now, industry will also call this a 10-degree reamer. Again, it's just rounding, but if you know what you're doing and how you're measuring your angles and you get something close to this 9.527 degree and you understand angles, you'd be like, that 10 degrees is a difference and I'm worried about it. It's all right. Industry just calls it a 10 degree for the rounding. But if you are getting that 9.527 degree included angle, that's where it's coming from. So we'll look at our 1.2 here, taper per foot. All right, so 1.2 again, just clarify the taper per foot, that's a change from the small end to a large end diameter over 12 inches would be 1.2 inches in diameter. That would be the change from the small to large end. The included angle on a 1.2 taper per foot would be 5.725 degrees. Again, the half angle is half of that dimension, so you're getting your 2.8625 degree. So, like I said, industry is going to call it an included angle. That's the angle between both. 5.725. Industry is going to call this a 6-degree reamer. So that's just where some of these differences are going to come in at. So rest assured, if you're measuring the correct angle and you're wondering why it's different from the reamers you're finding online available, that's where it's coming from. You're not wrong. Industry just has a little bit of a rounding difference. So again, we advertise ours down to the 100th degree, just so customers that know what they're looking for can find that for the most accurate representation of what they measured. So Hopefully that clears up some taper per foot, included angle, half angles, and your slant length versus your actual length between the 2 points and how you should get that measured. And why, if you measure that slant length, it's not going to measure for this application just because it's a small distance. So hopefully that helps. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always here to help. You can call us, text us, email us, send us anything that you got. We'll help you out. So utilize those resources, and hopefully it helps and you can find the correct solution to your needs. All right, guys. Once again, Brett Forney from XCut. Reach out if you need help. Thanks.